Bartholomew Town, bringing Rhode Islanders closer to their world since 2018. Brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Newport Film, Half Street Group, Navigant Credit Union, and the Audubon Society of Rhode Island.
Bartholomew Town.
So one of my favorite events every summer, it's something that I enjoy attending. It's something I enjoy performing at as a musician. I'm going to be moderating a conversation later this year at it, and they're one of our partners here in Bartholomew Town, and that's Newport Film. It's an amazing series that has really started to get not only regional, but national, and even global acclaim for the presentation of films in amazing locations, usually outdoors. And kicking off the year, kicking off the outdoor season this Thursday is The Last Dive. And I'm going to read the synopsis that is on The Last Dive's website to get into this episode. Then we'll speak with Cody in just a second. But here's your synopsis. Terry is a legendary figure in Baja, Mexico, an American veteran who has spent decades living on and in the water. Once a man burdened by a troubled past, Terry's life was transformed by an unlikely friendship with Willie. Not me. Willie is a 22-foot oceanic manta ray. For nearly 2 decades, Willie would slap his wings against the hull of Terry's sailboat to signal their next dive. And together they explored the ocean's depths, an extraordinary bond that turned Terry into an unexpected conservationist. Now, in his 80s, Terry embarks on one final journey to a remote island in hopes of reuniting with his old friend. But he's also searching for something deeper, peace, closure, and a chance to say goodbye. Directed by award-winning filmmaker Cody Sheehy and produced by the acclaimed Mark Monroe, The Last Dive is a visually stunning and emotionally resonant documentary that invites viewers to reflect on our connection to the natural world and then the wild, mysterious creatures that help us find our place in it. This sounds right up my alley. Cody joins us today. Did I pronounce your name properly, by the way? That was fairly irresponsible of me to get right into this without asking.
No, that was it. Yeah, Cody Sheehy. But that sounded
all right.
Great.
I'm one for one.
For having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We were talking offline. You attended URI for 1 year, and we're talking about stomping around Providence. Just quickly before we get into the film, your reflections on Rhode Island.
Oh, I love Rhode Island. And nowadays I live on a sailboat actually half the year in Mexico. And the very first time I ever went sailing was out of Newport. So I can tie it all back to Rhode Island. I miss it. I can't wait for the festival to see it again. So.
Yeah, well, it comes full circle. Look, there's this conservationist and sort of relationship with nature streak that I think a lot more people are starting to feel, starting to lean into. I hear it all the time, and especially here in Rhode Island, where, there's conversations about how do we better build our relationship with each other? How do we better build our relationship with life on land, life below the sea? These are things that kind of stem from sustainability goals from the United Nations, and they're just things that we probably feel. How did you get into the process of making this film? And just on those themes alone, just learning the relationship between all of the elements of nature, how did that sort of impact your decision to get into this project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have had sort of the theme of nature and people's connection to nature has run through all my work. I started out with PBS, making deep dives on our water issues across the Southwest or wildfires, things like that. So it's run all through my filmmaking. But yeah, just as I've gotten older and older, I've realized how much I personally love to spend time in nature. And for me, living on a sailboat in a remote area like the Sea of Cortez of Mexico, that really has just been a dream come true. And a lot of it's something you can do now with the remote work connection and stuff. So I'm down there on this boat and you run into all the other characters that show up when you're living on a sailboat in a place like that. And one day, Terry, the main subject, came in, dropped anchor next to me and started diving all around there every day. He was out there diving 2-3 times a day. Most people don't do that. And so I just, got to know him. We became friends long before we even set out on this journey to make a film together. So,
when did you first hear about his relationship with Willie?
So I met Terry about 10 years ago, and he was talking about Willie from the first minute that I met him. I wasn't sure if I believed it all because this is a wild story. Willie would come up to his boat every day and slap it with his huge wing, and then Terry would put on his scuba gear and jump in and hop on his back and go off and explore this island. There's a lot of tall tales out there in the sea. But it was really, I think, when I started watching all of his footage. So it turned out Terry wanted to be like Jacques Cousteau, and so he had started filming everything, and he had boxes and boxes and boxes of underwater footage with this remarkable animal, Willie, and it was all true and amazing.
Yeah, I guess that's probably one of the first things that, you would ask yourself from a little bit of skepticism naturally when you hear something like a story like that. And how do you know it's the same Ray every time? And how did you kind of validate the story? I mean, and get to a point where you were confident, hey, this is material that I can create. I can tell this story from a truly authentic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And the spine of the film is happening in the modern time. And so Terry had not been out to that island in 10 years to see Willie. And so we're taking him out to the island to see if we can reunite him one last time. So a lot of this I got to verify with my own eyes. And, of course, but starting with the archival, I'll just say, like, it was a huge process of sorting it all by year, by month, by location, by activity, and always, every time I could identify that it was Willie, putting those in a special bin until eventually we really have a complete record of what we could verify. Then we interviewed all the people who were out there with him and all the eyewitnesses to all of this, and all of them had footage too. So then we discovered all these other archives, some of them huge, so big that we didn't actually go through them all. But yeah, so it became super clear that it was all factual. And then when we went out to the island, so Terry knew by then he was out at this island for 20 years, and he knew all the mantis. There's Rosie, there's Tippy, there's Finger. He had them all named. And there was one named Chevy who he was really good friends with too. And when we got in for our first dive together, Chevy was still there. And so Terry recognized Chevy, and they didn't get too close. And then the next dive, Terry was able to get very close and get Chevy to recognize him. And I watched Chevy stop all of a sudden and present to Terry, and then start doing loops all around Terry. And you could tell that Chevy remembered Terry from 10 years before, So that's when I knew this really is a remarkable, it's an animal. I mean, manta rays are not that well studied, and we're finding out now that they're extremely intelligent. So this is an amazing animal.
Yeah, it's also, I can definitely speak to my own experiences. There's no question you can build relationships with animals. For me, it was more so when I grew up in the woods, like the flock of turkeys that would come through, and you start to recognize them and add names. And the next thing you know, in my case, I was like an 11-year-old telling my parents I'm vegetarian, and they're going, why? And I'm like, well, because my friends out there, I'm not going to eat my friends. Like, these relationships are real, and to be able to capture it. And especially in a moment right now, we look about the world is in utter chaos. We all know that. That couldn't be more obvious. But then moments like this, moments or stories like you capture in the last dive. I mean, do you see yourself as almost like in this role, journalistically, documentarian wise, as shining a mirror on society to say, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of good that happens as well. There's a lot of connectivity. I know you feel isolated perhaps, but look at something like this because it shows that we are really all moving as an amoeba at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I hope people who from all different backgrounds are able to watch The Last Dive. And I think that's one of the things that I love about it is in our very polarized time where we've been, broken into all these little groups and we all have different information. We're all in our little bubble. And that drives us apart, and so someone who might not care about manta rays, this film's different because Terry is so unique himself. He's a former Hell's Angel. He's not your usual conservationist. And so watching him change as he has these relationships, I think will be a really great experience for a lot of people who maybe are wondering, if it's okay for them to also be interested in nature and that connection. So, and I totally agree with you. It is something that we need right now. That yearning, that desire to be closer to nature, I think would be a really good thing for all of us.
Yeah, I absolutely 1000% agree with that. This is going to be screening at the Great Friends Meeting House. That's the location for the kickoff for Newport Film summer season. Dave Flamond, actually a great local artist, and my friend is going to be opening that up with music. And I understand there'll be a pre-film discussion. Will you be participating in that?
Yep. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody and being part of that.
What's your take right now on the state of documentary filmmaking. I mean, a lot of people hear about trouble in media writ large. Not when we say media, we're talking everything from music to documentaries to news media. And that trouble is usually reflected in the corporate sort of realm. A lot of people understand the challenges that Hollywood's facing, or again, the news media consolidation, implementation of AI, and people not really understanding what that's going to look like. As a filmmaker, where do you see yourself and the industry as a whole right now being able to tackle big problems like the one that you're tackling in The Last Dive? And that problem isn't necessarily the specifics of Willie and Terry and their relationship, but it's the problem of us feeling disconnected, lonely, and uncertain as a species. And you answer a lot of questions in this film. I mean, where do you go from here? Are you sort of free as an independent producer of those challenges that many of the bigger firms are facing at the moment?
Well, I think you're right that, and it's something we talk about a lot, is what is happening to the documentary industry. So, like the news media and everything else, there's been a lot of disruption for documentaries. The good news is, I've been in some meetings lately, and it's clear that there is an audience for
Bartholomew Town.
Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Yeah. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org.
Still. The problem is everyone is not, the audience isn't getting connected to the films that are out there. And so we're all going to Netflix and we're looking for, but there's only that one homepage and they show you 5 things that they want you to see. And it's really hard to find content and it may not be on Netflix. And so very few documentary films are selling, and what they produce inside of Netflix is going to be, true crime, celebrity biopic, maybe a cult thrown in there. But that's, these stories about our actual world that aren't from that formulaic script, they're not on there as much anymore. And that's the next challenge for the industry for sure. Yeah. I think documentary can provide something that the news, as our news gathering apparatus shrivels up. I've always thought the documentary is going to be where people turn to learn about the world. And so, and the audience is there. We just got to figure out how to get through this thing. We could be on the edge, the beginning of something great, or at the very last of something that was really good for a while. We're at that inflection point.
Yeah, it really is. And it applies to music. It applies to broadcast media as well. And it's going to be interesting to see where we go. The consumption desire is there. The platforms that are distributing, as you said, it's not much different with Spotify. It's not much different with Apple Podcasts. It is definitely difficult to cut through. What's your message to young filmmakers or anybody who wants to tell stories right now, given this environment? I read an Atlantic article the other day that was like, yeah, if you're in school and you're like have any ambitions of doing journalism or anything like that, you're out of your mind. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I agree with that. I think you're out of your mind if you want to go, work for CNN or the New York Times, maybe. That's still going to always be there. But it seems to me like there's more opportunity than ever. Again, those distribution platforms are challenged. But what's your message to young storytellers?
Yeah, I mean, I like for anybody, even if you aren't a storyteller, just follow your passion and what you're interested in, because whatever you love to do, you're going to put in the extra time, the extra hours, and that's going to lead to success. Yeah. Same thing if you feel like you have stories that you want to tell. And then I would say for me, the big jumps in my career were always related to having a mentor that was ahead of me and wanted to help me do that. And I was open to learning from this person. And so there's usually these wonderful people that are willing to help you, and just finding them for each step in your life. And the other thing is, I mean, the technology is getting so accessible to everybody. So the costs of making things are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So
yeah, I completely agree with all of that, particularly the mentor part. If someone is unable to attend Newport Film screening on Thursday, where else could they look to, at least for information about where they might be able to see this film in the future?
Yeah, I'd like to turn them to the lastdivefilm.com, and we're collecting all the festivals that are going to have the Last Dive. So in the near future, it's going to have a big festival run, and we've been accepted into many festivals across the country. They're not all on there yet because we're waiting for the embargoes to come up, and then we can post those festivals. But it'll be in many cities across the United States. For a streaming date, we're still working out the details on. As I said earlier, it's a challenging time right now, but hopefully we'll have luck there and be available on your home screen soon.
Cody, thanks so much for your time today, and good luck on Thursday, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomew Town. For more content, follow me on Instagram @BillBartholomew.